2 years ago, Joe Shane was tasked with a difficult decision whether to pay his quarterback, Daniel Jones, or his star running back, Saquon Barkley. Now, Daniel Jones has struggled early on in his career, but thanks to Brian Daboll, he had a resurgence and he guided the New York Giants and resurrected Daniel Jones' career and helped the Giants win a postseason game against the Minnesota Vikings and some type of direction forward after muddling through a few seasons where he had numerous coaches and very poor play on the field. And Saquon Barkley, he bursted onto the scene in 2018 and was the Giants' star running back for countless years, but it was marred by injuries for a couple of seasons. And at that point, they did not know if he was going to be healthy going forward. And after careful consideration, the Giants decided to pay Daniel Jones 4 years, $140 million and franchise tag Saquon Barkley. 2 years later, they let him walk down the New Jersey Turnpike and allow him to join the Philadelphia Eagles. And John Mara, the owner, was very adamant that he would lose sleep at night thinking about Saquon Barkley in an Eagles uniform playing them twice a year. Well, Mr. Mara, your worst nightmare has come true. On Sunday, Saquon Barkley took the field at Metlife Stadium where it all began and soaked in the moment, really downplayed the week leading up to it where this wasn't a revenge game and really made it all about football. Barkley went on to have his best performance of the year, 187 total yards, including 176 on the ground alone, countless big gains, a couple that went more than 40 yards on the ground, and he had a touchdown going head-to-head against his old buddy Dexter Lawrence in the hole for a 3-yard touchdown run, showed the leg drive, showed the power, and reminded New York how much they were going to miss their former star running back. And on a day that he outgained the Giants offense by himself, his former quarterback, Daniel Jones, was benched. And he suffered a bunch of sacks. I mean, he was sacked by Jalen Carter twice, Nakobe Dean twice, and Nolan Smith once, and the Georgia Bulldogs combined for 5 sacks. And it was good to see Bryce Huff get into the mix where he had a sack after struggling for much of the early part of the season, and post-bye week he's had 1.5 sacks. Josh Sweat is on a 3-game sack streak now, and it's good to see that the edge rushers are getting into the mix after the Eagles defense was really questioned with the lack of pass rush through 4 games to open the season. But getting back to the Giants, they had the opportunity to play this right. I've been on this platform talking about how the Giants fumbled this negotiation. 2 years ago, if they had an opportunity to use a time machine to go back, they would have absolutely signed Saquon Barkley to an extension and let Daniel Jones walk. At a minimum, give him a franchise tag deal. And while he did have that one good season, remember the rest of the body of work where it was turnovers, poor throws, him getting tripped up by his own self after running for almost 80 yards, but should have been a touchdown in 2020. If you think about the Daniel Jones experience, well, it's been mostly a bunch of downs instead of a bunch of ups. And in 2019, they reached for this guy instead of maybe standing pat and trying to figure out another way to reset the roster in the post-Eli Manning era. And since signing that 4-year, $140 million deal, Daniel Jones has yet to throw a touchdown pass at Metlife Stadium. And so far this year, Saquon Barkley has as many offensive touchdowns than the entire Giants offense through this part of the season. As long as things play out like this, I think it's clear the Eagles won this divorce. And the Giants, the fans who are angry at Saquon for walking, well, unfortunately, this is on your team's ownership and GM. I mean, they really fumbled the situation, and burning the jerseys I thought was utterly disrespectful. For 5-6 years, this guy was your best player. He was the top selling jersey of your franchise since 2018. And frankly, he didn't take that personal. He let his play do the talking on the field, and I was still very impressed with how the Eagles have been able to rally after a tough stretch early on. And credit to Nick as well. I thought he was really good with getting his team ready for this matchup. It was a good week, and he prepared this team. They had a game plan, they executed it, and winning 28-3 on the road against a division rival is something you will absolutely take. The starters basically sat out the entire fourth quarter, and I think that was a great decision because we know the Metlife Stadium turf is god-awful. I mean, there's been countless ACLs, Achilles tendons claimed on that field, and I'm just so happy the team could survive a game against the Giants unscathed without serious injury. And now they do have a big test against the Cincinnati Bengals. They've won 2 straight. They put on good tape for back-to-back weeks. It's the first time the Eagles have won consecutive games since this famous collapse in 2023. Joe Burrow is looking good as ever, and now it's a big test to see how this Eagles defense, after getting a couple of weaker matchups against lesser competition, how do they measure up against one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best wide receiving duos in the league.